Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of the people who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out to Tom Herkins, Tina Baker, theflatearthchannel.com, Texas Mike, Skeptic936, Rune, Reinhardt, Qatar Craig, Paige, Love, Michael, Matt, Life is Short, Kirsten Smith, Joshua Balsamo, Jeranism, Godrockin, Fireball X, Felix Hung, Edwin Johnson, David Wayne Foster, Dank, Chow Young Cat, Burn Fat Till My Stomach Is As Flat As the Earth, Billy Highvolt, Alistair Main, and Adrian Quintana. So a big shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. Now we are actually joined by quite a few people in both G+ and Discord servers. So I'm going to raise the mic on all of them, and hopefully you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for the next live show. Or there'll be a prolonged long pause. We shall see.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Mr. Bassy Voice.
Oh, is my mic too loud, or?
No, you just sound like you're about to do an introduction to a very serious action movie.
Flat Earth Man here.
It was a time of war. It was a time of suffering.
It's Cork from Canada.
In a world formerly thought to be a sphere, one man will change everything. That's kind of what you sound like. Good to have you. Right, I'm going to go on mute. I've got things to do. Pretend I'm not here.
Are we going to go through the housekeeping questions?
Nope.
Well, do you mean jump right into what I was going to show you?
Yeah.
Okay. This is a video I found. It's by my home tuition, whatever the word is. He's actually talking about gas pressure, which is really interesting. He actually diagrams it out here. I'm not going to play it, so it won't get copyrighted, but I pulled up the transcript. And you know how they've been arguing that it's the weight of the column of air above us that causes the gas pressure? Remember that argument they've been giving us?
Yeah,
it's Zanek's favorite thing.
We were replying with what's the weight of the stuff on top of it, and obviously at the top there's nothing to press down. But yeah, go on. Sorry.
But no, you're okay. If you read this transcript, it starts about the minute mark. But he actually says it, and he says the container is caused by the. Let's see. Wait a minute. Let me back up here. He says, like the O2 mark, it says contain gas. Okay, the container that contain gas. Now I hate these transcripts. Now show students that think that the gas pressure, the car, which that's wrong. Well, basically saying the gas pressure is caused by the weight. That's basically what he's saying. But he goes on and basically says that that's not the case. It's very, very minute. It's actually the pressure inside there that's actually causing the gas pressure. So that right there just debunks them right off the bat, because it's not the weight of the air that's causing the gas pressure, but it's the pressure itself colliding with the material that's causing the gas pressure.
He stated that in the video?
Yeah, he actually stated it. Yeah, the transcript right here, it's horrible, but if you actually listen to the video, from about the 1 minute mark on, I dropped it into Discord. He actually says it in the video, the weight of the air does not cause the pressure. It's the colliding against the wall that's causing the pressure. What's that?
I said, duh.
Oh, I know, but just wanted this citation for our constant argument.
Citation. Who said it?
It's this my home tuition, I guess. it's like a teaching video. I shared it in the Discord, so the video's in Discord.
Remember about citations. Citations are only as good as the cowbell that's supporting them. Essentially, I don't care who's saying it in a citation. On its face, it's a baseless assertion fallacy until you can provide cowbell to support that citation.
Oh, sorry. That reminds me. So there was a guy in Discord, I don't know if he's still here. I can't remember who it was, I'm sorry. Who is asking about the affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy they use in regards to weight change and changing of latitudes. Now, I didn't mention what you just said, but that would be a third point to add to that if he's there or listening after the fact. It's, as John puts it, on its face, a baseless assertion. Now, if they're going to demonstrate that that's actually happening, you then move to one of the other 2 points, either the presupposition of Earth being a sphere or the formal logical fallacy they will use, or the fact that there's no scientific evidence that's going to be asserted when they use a cause and effect relationship to claim something is some way or somehow. Anyway, that was just a further point to the guy's point earlier. On its face, a mere citation is just a baseless assertion.
Precisely. Just think about it. Somebody's just saying something, writing it down in a book or a periodical, right? Now, unless they can support it within what they just said with an obvious demonstration, or you can demonstrate it because you're citing it, then it's worthless. I don't care who's saying it. Richard Feynman, doesn't matter. Right? Clowns, clown shows. I mean, this is painfully obvious to anyone that can fog a mirror. Right? So since I've been posting citations for 3.5 years, now these friggin' clowns are trying to cite stuff because they've never gone to university. Most of these clowns, they haven't even graduated high school. It's obvious. The funny part is you don't even realize that you're bashing your own heads in with a shovel when you pull this stuff out, man. It's hilarious. People, I don't know, people aren't telling you, but high schoolers and university, anyone from university that's listening to you are laughing their frigging asses off at you. Just to let you know. Clowns.
That being said, Sleeping Warrior's encounter with those 2 people on the streets would kind of suggest that they're breeding Dumbos in universities as well.
Just parroters. All they're doing is parroting. They teach them what to think, not how to think. So it's memorize and regurgitate. Memorize, regurgitate, right? Even for people at university, right? The other case is people just parroting Wiki, their alma mater. That's all they do is they parrot. And like I said, you just scratch right underneath the surface, like Formica deep, and it all falls apart because they have no background. They have no depth. They are pretender clowns with clinical level Dunning-Kruger. Thanks.
Shut up and calculate, John.
That's right. Shut up and calculate, right? Boy, that speaks 1,000 words. Don't even need a picture. Shut up and calculate. Ah!
It would be really impossible to calculate Coriolis. Even if there was one, because first off, the our compass, like magnetic north, doesn't match the axis of the Earth. So how can you actually know if the Earth was turning? It would be impossible to calculate the angles, the trajectories, because what would you base it off of?
Calculate. They
Stars.
can't even
Calculate?
define
How
it.
about measuring it?
Yeah, it's impossible. They claim a Coriolis, but it's absolutely impossible. Even if there was one, you couldn't even calculate it. We wouldn't have the instrumentation to do it, or even to know where you are at any one time.
Talking about calculation, they can't even define it. we're light years away from calculation.
It's brutal.
John, did you hear earlier when I was talking about how I was going back and forth with Xanax yesterday? And remember Kosho's citation?
I got here.
Well,
like.
Well, apparently. Right. So apparently, Kosho's citation, Zanuck is saying, is completely wrong, and that he would go to the authors of this citation and correct them on this point, on that point, because they don't agree, or he doesn't agree that definition of Coriolis is correct. So they literally have to fight their own citations now. And I asked him, well, can you please provide me with the correct citation? Because apparently all you ballers are running around here thinking Coriolis is one thing, and apparently you, Zanuck, have the magic clue as to what Coriolis is actually. So please tell us. And then after that, show us where it happens in reality. And after that was most of the stuff, and you know how that goes. So.
Yeah, well, Zanuck, he has, like we demonstrated, has the intellectual honesty of Milli Vanilli. So, Zanuck, are you listening? Blame it on the rain. Yeah. You're a clown. I'm going to have a whole week presenting on you, toe tag clown.
I think Coriolis was just an excuse. A guy had a bad shot with a rifle, so he needed an excuse. It's ridiculous.
Just ask him to define it. Any of these baltards, right? And ask him for a citation with it, and then demonstration, and then sit back and laugh.
The best part of it was, right? Remember when you read out the citation, you said it was one of the best definitions of Coriolis that you've seen. And then here's Zanuck with, oh, this is completely wrong. Great.
Well, he said it was the best, but by the same token, following the good bit where it defined it quite succinctly, it went on to define it with a contradiction and talk about weather. So, you know.
Well, you chew the meat and spit out the bones with most of this stuff. I thought it was a really good practical definition where everyone can understand it. You follow?
Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing. It was a good definition, but I'm just, even you, after you read it out and were like, it's a good definition. However, here's a paragraph later where they completely contradict their own very concise definition with a complete double-speak assertion about what Earth does, which is fairly typical with anything that's related to Coriolis effect, especially when it's come from a baller. They're going to be using the contradictory bit in the paragraph afterwards and ignoring the concise explanation that blows in the face of it. Excuse the pun.
Yeah,
remember
Kosho magically skipped all the parts that describe the actual causes and went straight to, the speed differential because of latitude change.
Exactly.
Let's skip all the parts that say that the cause is the rotation of the Earth underneath an object moving in a straight line. Let's don't worry about that. Nothing to see here.
Well, just remember, they can say, and they've told me, that we're moving and sitting still at the same time.
Yep. Accelerating coffee cups on my table. All that.
Yep, conservation of momentum, right? Remember, I told you guys, if they bring up conservation of momentum, pin them down. Exactly what are you talking about? What momentum? Which object?
They're saying,
right?
They're basically saying infinite free energy. Like if you're hovering a helicopter, say the Earth is moving, the helicopter comes up, so it's moving the same distance as the Earth. But if you use physics, the weight of that object is going to eventually, you're going to lose momentum. So what's magically keeping it moving forward? Yeah, you know what I mean? That's free energy.
Yeah.
In a sense. Why don't they utilize that to power cities?
Right, you just hover and the continent comes to you. Very little energy needed using. Don't have to fight any air currents. Just wait and it comes
their
to you.
citations say objects are supposed to move freely, which is funny because that was one of the words that Zanuck said he would change in that citation. The moves freely part above the Earth rotating underneath towards the east. Yeah, he thought that part should be edited out.
Is that what they citate?
Yeah, they say
We're
that,
gonna-
but it's very, very minor. You can, they claim that, it's very minor because the distance is still very small from the alleged center of the Earth. So it's supposed to be less, but last time I checked, it's quite tiny, like maybe 0.1% or 0.01 or something like that. Very tiny difference.
Well, that wouldn't make sense, because if you had a satellite that say weighed half a ton, they go up and put it in a stationary orbit, so there's nothing pulling it to Earth. If the Earth was spinning and all the atmosphere was stuck to it, but the higher you go, the less pull, we'll say pull, there is on the atmosphere, you would have a drag, like the whole atmosphere would be dragging. As you go higher, it would be lagging behind, because there wouldn't be any friction. There'd be less friction.
Not according to their story. The atmosphere is stuck to the Earth, so everything up higher has to spin faster.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion right here, right now, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by Chocolate Sane, Arwin, Righteous Force, Paul, Anon Moto and 10th Man, together with, I believe, Ranty Flat Earth and Quantum Eraser in Skype and G+. Welcome.
Hello, hello.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. We're also joined by a whole bunch of people in Discord. So, hello to everyone in Discord.
Good afternoon, Nathan.
Hello.
Howdy.
Howdy, howdy.
What's up, Discord?
Any signs of Earth curvature, Discord, or anybody else for that matter?
No.
No. No
Resounding
curvature.
no.
Signs of axial rotation in that case?
Nope.
No.
Stationary.
The evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth.
How would they know?
Let me down, Discord. Got to be some fundies in here. Any evidence of the presupposition itself, the R value, Earth radius, presumed to be spherical?
Nope.
Nope.
Anybody at all? Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Yes.
Non-force force.
Oh, I heard a yes. Hold on, I heard a yes. Who said yes?
That was me, but I was bullshit.
Oh, pretender pounds. Bastard. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure?
Cheese.
Oh, here we go. Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container? to press upon?
No.
Don't think so.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Not any measured ones.
Has to be a thing first before you can figure out a distance.
Definitely.
Does
What
astral
makes you-
projection count?
What makes you think?
Oh, go on.
What makes you think they could measure distances to the sun when they got the first 5 questions wrong?
I definitely don't expect them to give that, but one day someone will step in and give us part of the mathematics which they think they understand, and will point out where their presuppositions come into play. I think that's it. Is that the conclusion? I'll add one just for quantum eraser. Any evidence of a vacuum without a container?
I love that one.
No? Something for the fundies to go and try and demonstrate? We'd like to see a vacuum without a container. That's what we'd like to see.
Oh, is it even theoretically possible?
No, Arwin, no. It's
No,
claimed to be our sky, though.
Beyond for
After pointing out
actual
no, I just want to add
volume
on.
to be perfectly devoid of matter altogether.
Yeah, well,
Is
it's not
that possible?
possible. I just want to strap something on to the end of that. It's also claimed to be our sky, Arwin. So no, definitely not possible, but also claimed to be the sky. Interesting, eh?
Indeed, just walk outside. But anyway, I wonder if there is any kind of theoretical evidence even that space or a volume can be absolutely perfectly devoid of any sort of matter entirely, if that is even theoretically possible.
I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be.
But-
Theoretically, I could be a Super Saiyan.
But not that theoretical.
I mean, you
But
can't even...
you're asking-
But as soon as you invoke that word, that's what comes up. You know,
But
like, well, theoretically, anything is possible, right? By that respect, but it's not.
Maybe you don't
a
appreciate...
scientific
No, but
theory.
my point is that a vacuum is the idea of the missing of filler gas. But what would there be if there was nothing filling it up?
Nothing.
Like,
So I just want to get this in. Maybe you
is
don't
that even
appreciate...
possible?
Maybe you don't appreciate just how devoid of stuff 10 to the minus 17 Tor is. There's going to be huge areas of absolutely nothing in that 10 to the minus 17 Tor claimed to be vacuum of the sky. That you maybe don't appreciate just how devoid of stuff that is.
Right, but could it not be possible to view it in another fashion and just say that that gas that would be left in there would actually be filling it up? That it would just spread out? That, well, the idea of the molecule may have been an overestimation in the first place.
Would still be...
That it can actually spread out because of the low pressure.
Even if you carry on the idea of us having this gas pressure we do definitely have and all breathe, dispersing into what they claim is the vacuum of the sky, given the quantity, ever increasing I might add, of the sky vacuum, it would still be at 10 to the minus 17 Tor if every single bit of gas dissipated and every bit of water turned instantaneously into gas and also filled that sky vacuum. It would still be at 10 to the minus 17 Tor based on their mathematics of the size itself. It's so infinitely vast, it wouldn't even make a dent. And it would disappear instantaneously into that sky vacuum, I might add. You know, it wouldn't be like we'd slowly see the gas seeping into the sky and have time to go, oh no, there's a sky vacuum. No. It would be absolutely instantaneous. And it wouldn't make a dent in the amount of volume they claim it is.
Absolutely. I was just trying to wander off in physics specifics. Just the idea that molecules bounce around is like one way to conceptualize it, but could it be slightly different in nature in that the molecules actually expand and become, well,
Do you mean the
the way they
molecules
are.
themselves, or do you mean them in relation to each other? Do you physically mean the molecule itself gets bigger, or do you mean that the space between them gets larger?
Well, maybe the molecule does get bigger.
That's what I thought you meant. No, the amount of space that they will occupy will always be the amount of space it can occupy, and the amount of gas is just going to be evenly distributed. Not evenly, because that's incorrect terminology, but, it's going to fill the available volume.
I understand that's based on the unit principle. I'm just trying to figure out, could it be slightly different? Could it not be molecule here and a lot of not molecule there? Could it be that it actually does kind of expand because of the lack of pressure?
That's the bullshit they assert, isn't it? Bloody roaming gas. Just roaming around in the sky vacuum. Yeah, that's the bullshit they assert.
What? No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
No,
they do.
I'm trying something completely new here. No, this does not tie in with the idea of a sky vacuum. This is separate. This is just my conceptualization of what low pressure actually is.
Sure,
what that gas is doing.
But they do have that in their
now
narrative.
Conceptualized as molecules bouncing randomly in all directions. That's one way to approach it, and I already conceded earlier on that model works well. But could it be different? That's what I'm wondering.
It's not
It's just claimed to be
It's
different.
just less stuff.
Oh, absolutely. It doesn't
when you
detract
have a
from
vacuum,
that. But that all still stands.
a vacuum,
okay?
all you're doing is moving one substance from one place to another, really. That's all you're doing. Like if I put a vacuum pump on a chamber, I just move what's in that chamber to outside the chamber.
Yeah.
So you can't make things disappear. It's just basically moving one thing from one place to another place.
Right. I'm simply
But you still
asking
need a
now
container.
a new question about what that thing really is, because I'm not denying that at all. I'm just saying maybe the approach to
What
how
thing are
we
you talking about?
conceptualize it could be different.
But
Just wandering around.
get back to the vacuum chamber without a chamber, right? The NASA vacuum chamber up there at Plum Brook Station in Sandusky, Ohio, they can get that vacuum chamber down to 10 to the minus 6 torr, right? That's roughly in the vicinity of where the ISS is, right? The chamber is an aluminum encased by 8 feet of reinforced concrete. That's what they need. The doors are 5 million pounds each, and they must be driven into place. So, what was that little story? If we just flip this, if we just make it inverse with the ISS and the hole that was in there, and somebody plugged it with their finger, right? You frigging clowns.
I'm pretty sure no. Are you sure I'm pretty sure the ISS walls are the same as that vacuum chamber on Earth, and that guy's finger was at least 8 foot long, wasn't it?
It had to be. Because it has to be.
But we don't just remember, we don't really have to work at the what is level. Really is level.
The really is. Not necessarily.
We can work at the CD cover artwork level, and that's good enough for most people.
I do work with vacuum pumps in refrigeration, and we get it down to about just over 29 inches of vacuum, which is inversely almost the same as almost 30 pounds of pressure, but negatively. But you can put your finger on a 29 inches of vacuum, and it's not going to blow your finger off.
Well, that pisses on our bonfire.
What's that for?
That pisses on our bonfire, eh?
What's that in torr, please?
I'm not sure. I just know we can only get down to 29 point. You can't pull 30-inch vacuum because that's theoretically the perfect vacuum. So what minus 17 Thor is, I have no idea, but it's going to be between 29 and 30 inches of mercury.
Go ahead and convert it.
Well, just a play on words. If it won't suck
Go
your
ahead and
finger
convert
out, it might tore your finger out.
hold on a second. Go ahead and convert that, because you ain't getting anywhere in the near vicinity of the vacuum of that. You're not even getting anywhere near 10 to the negative 6 torr with your little vacuum there.
Yeah, but a perfect vacuum is 30. Like, I'm not arguing against you. I'm just saying 30 inches of vacuum is a theoretical perfect vacuum, which space cannot even achieve, according to them.
No, you need to get the units of measure right. So go convert those units of measure and then come back. Come back and tell us. We're working in
John,
torr value.
how thick you said those doors were for the vacuum chamber, NASA's vacuum chamber?
Well, the whole chamber is encased by 8 feet of reinforced concrete. It's aluminum shelled, so the doors have to be at least 8 feet in depth.
Interesting when you hear astronauts talking about walls being as thick as 3 sheets of Reynolds wrap. Yeah. That's adorable.
Wasn't there a story from NASA where there was a small pin-sized hole and they used bubble gum to plug it?
It was a finger.
Yeah, but didn't they put something else there after the finger?
Finger in the dike.
No,
Yeah,
I mean
they're
after they gave us the finger. Didn't they put something in there?
Yeah, they're Johnsons. And then Nathan asked, "Well, what happens if that were the case? Is it a blow or a suck job?"
No.
What happened to the show?
To what? What?
No, let's move on.
I would quite like to assess or have general opinions on people's thoughts on what is called, incorrectly in my opinion, the flat earth community. In other words, what are your general thoughts on the state of flat earth when that idea of flat earthism is reified into a group or a thing? Just your general attitudes towards it as it stands in 2019. Any takers?
Yeah, I'll take it. There's a lot of people who talk about subjects without the proper investigation on their own. So that would make up part of that group. And then there's people who believe they've done all the background checks and then they come out and say words and they have citations, sources, etc. And there's a great divide between just those two reference points of those two types of people that make up the so-called flat earth community, let alone personality types and the way people argue and don't argue, listen and don't listen. So is there a flat earth community to 10th man? No. There's variations of a statement that a lot of people will share in different ways. I've argued with flat earthers. It's like, what? What do you mean? How do you prove that? You can't say that. And so they just go off the rails rather than sticking tight to the solid proofs and evidence that would back up a flat earth. So in a comparison, I would say I've been reading the Bible for 45 years, and I run into a lot of people who claim to be Christians and they violate and contradict the Bible. It's the same thing.
I've got the info on the vacuum that I think Cork was talking about.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Yeah. So, when you're talking vacuum, when you say you can pull it to, say, 29 inches of mercury below, that means that it's the standard atmospheric pressure is 29.92 inches of mercury. So if you can pull it to 29 below, that means you're looking at 0.5 to 0.7 or something like that inches of mercury, which is like 10 torr to maybe 100 torr. So yeah, like at best you could get maybe say 10 torr, but the ISS is supposed to be, and that vacuum chamber in NASA is 10 to the power -6, so it's like 0.00001 torr. Really small. Whereas the vacuum you're working with can get down to maybe, looks to be like 10 torr or so, or 100 torr. Yeah. So
I'm glad you did that. Thank you, Earth-shaped investigator. So,
yeah.
Okay, now you've had your I see why you were abrupt or grumpy or whatever you want to phrase it as, QE, to get that qualified or get that converted. So yeah, we're talking many factors higher torr value.
Orders of magnitude
That's the
higher.
one.
And wasn't grumpy. Does this mic make me sound grumpy?
I used the wrong word, not grumpy, abrupt.
Grumpy.
Abrupt, because it's a point that on the surface, if you don't qualify these values, it's like, oh right, so you can easily defy a vacuum. Well, no, in that instance you can, but it's orders of magnitude less powerful if you want to define a vacuum as having power, the power of suck, right? No, I understand it's not.
And it does say 30 inches of mercury is considered an effectively perfect vacuum, which we can never achieve. So
Yeah,
what's 30 inches to torr?
No, so when you using the calculator, when you get to 30 inches below, that means it's like, a perfect vacuum, because it's basically 0 torr. But obviously that's just the scale they use in this vacuum type conversion. So because it's relative to atmospheric pressure, so it basically is going to 0 atmospheric pressure. That means where the mercury doesn't register any pressure or something like that. But realistically, that range of 29 below to 30 below, that's where the values start really. When you convert it to torr, it gets a bit harder, because it goes from like 10 torr to like really 10 to the power -6, 10 to the power -17, as they say in space. So it's a bit of a practical measurement for people working with vacuums, but it's not an absolute measure of the pressure itself, so it's a bit hard to convert. But I did find a converter. I'll put it in the Discord chat.
Yeah, all right, thanks for that. So the only thing I was saying was, when I pull a vacuum, say 29, just over 29 inches, and if it's just like a little pinhole, you can put your finger on a 29-inch vacuum and it's not, it'll give you a little red mark. But I mean, if you had a hole the size of your body, well, that's a different story, because you have more area per square inch that would be negatively pulling on you. But if a pinhole, it's not going to suck them through the pinhole, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, but the ISS would be, based on rough calculations, would be 100 times to 1,000,000 times lower pressure than that particular pinhole or whatever. It's like 100 times less
Says
pressure,
who?
or even 1,000,000 times, yeah.
Who says this?
Oh, wait a second. According to their story, that says who. They say.
Yeah.
We're not for 1 second. We're not for 1 second arguing that the sky is a vacuum. We're just pointing out what their narrative is. So, shout out to Flatulent Unicorn, who says, "Smash the super chat or be sphere." Thank you very much for the super chat, Flatulent Unicorn. I'm glad we rounded that point out, because it means I can segue back onto us talking about the state of affairs in flat Earth generally in 2019. Any other takers? I know 10th Man's put his 2 pennyworth in. I thought more people would be fighting to talk about this. Obviously not.
It is tough. It is tough, especially with family. Some family members will think you're just freaking crazy, and so you can't just talk. You can't talk about it with some people. It's such a.
I'll say
spot.
something before I leave. What I noticed is, even though we're winning the arguments, the censorship is counteracting that a little bit, and that's about what I say.
Yeah, they have to, especially because these arguments aren't going anywhere for the globe anymore. So,
Like Red Pill says, corporate welfare has to step in and save them.
pretty much.
If I understood Nathan's initial question, it was within the flat Earth community of flat Earthers, not the opposition.
Wait, how do flat earthers feel about flat earthers? I don't really.
Nathan, readdress your
I don't-
question.
Yeah, I don't really get it.
Sorry, did you ask me to do something?
Yeah. Your initial question about the flat Earth community, I took it as within the confines of flat Earthers and what they say about each other or the different directions they might be going with arguments, etc. You weren't asking the question about the opposition and flat Earthers, right? You were just talking about flat Earthers.
Yeah, I was hoping for people to just sort of sum up how they perceive the topic, or how the public perceives the topic. So rather than the opposing arguments or our arguments, just what's the general state of affairs within this subject matter. So yeah, I was expecting people to talk a little bit about censorship, and I don't want to lead anybody in what they talk about next, but I've got a few ideas that I thought people would talk about. Another shout out to Flatulent Unicorn, who sends me a unicorn sticker. Very nice.
Oh, then my bad. I
Well,
thought
among
you
the-
were asking about what within the flat Earth, is there such a thing as a flat Earth community, and how do they view each other? I thought that was the question.
Then that was just my spin of what I see it as, because I don't necessarily see it as being a community. It's just it's not a group of people. It's lots of individuals doing their own thing.
Shout out to Slick Johnson. I don't belong to a community.
Well, I'd agree with
I
you.
do find you do, like, how you argue with half globetards that just spout out information without even knowing what they're saying. I do find that those type of personalities are in the flat earth community a little bit. You have some people believing the sun's actually local in the clouds. You had a lot of the flat earthers saying the sun's in the clouds, like 20 miles from their view. And they just start spouting that out without even really thinking about what they're saying. So you do get those kind of personalities on the opposite side of the board, you know what I mean? Just flat earthers spouting out ideas without any proof. That happens as well in the flat earth community.
Yeah, I certainly.
You're definitely right. We hear that a lot, but try not to do that crap over here. No necessity, to be honest. I mean, I get people speculating, but let's stick with what we can prove, man. Especially if we're talking about proof, then let's stick with what we can prove.
No, I do hear on this channel quite a bit too. The Van Allen radiation belt mentioned. Do you guys believe there is a Van Allen radiation?
Van Halen radiation belts. Those aren't talked about here.
The Van Allen radiation belt.
Yeah, the Van Halen.
Where?
Van Halen radiation belts.
I like that one.
Is there a Van Allen belt? Do you guys believe? I hear you guys mention it. Do you believe there is?
Dance the night
No,
away.
I don't.
The only time
Hold on,
I
hold
ever
on, I'm gonna
mention
take
it
a-
is when I
Chocolate.
mention the double speak
Hold on,
of
Chocolate.
the astronauts. I'm sorry, is
We
somebody
had a
talking?
taker. So was that?
Yeah, Nathan's talking to you. Hold on, Nathan. Chocolate. Can you hear Nathan?
My God.
When he's
I'm getting
saying
rumpus by
something?
John telling off bloody Chocolate. So I had Anon say yes or no. I couldn't make it out, but something in regards to Van Allen radiation belts. Was that a no or a yes? I'm so glad I cleared the airwaves.
Yeah, come on.
Well,
Van Halen
I was just
radiation
going to
belt.
add that whenever I've ever spoken about the Van Allen radiation belts, it's to point out the double speak of astronauts saying, with some of them saying, "Oh yeah, we didn't know about them," when we went through them, and then other astronauts saying, "Oh no, we just we went really fast and it didn't affect us." Whether they're up there or not,
Yeah,
that's beyond me because I don't know. But that's the only time I have myself bring it up.
no, that's true. How their double speaks crazy, but Van Allen, it was supposed to be the first satellite sent into space. That's when they detected these Van Allen belts. So for the flat Earth community, not saying you guys, to always mention the Van Allen belts, but they don't believe in satellites, that's a contradiction, because if you look up how they actually detected it, it was the first satellite sent to the space.
You mean
So
the medium that doesn't
there it
exist, so
goes.
they got us arguing about Van Allen?
Right, there you go. The reason you got silence out of me and QE was for the same reason. I'm going to just speak for him, hope he doesn't mind. We were waiting for the assertion. So you said space. So it depends on the qualification that comes along with the claim. So if what you're talking about in terms of Van Allen is an area claimed to be a vacuum, then that part of the narrative debunks the claim of it being in existence in the first instance, if it's claimed to be in the vacuum of the sky. Claimed to be around a presupposed sphere, same thing applies. It just depends on what you assert. So you claim that the proof came from satellites in space. Well, that would be the point that you take apart the assertion. Do I know if there are something that it has been named bloody radiation belts with Van Allen as the actual name? Well, I don't know if that's real or not. I have no idea. I don't know what's in the sky. Now, the fact that they claim it depends on what comes alongside that claim in terms of what you pull apart, right? But whether or not there are some belts of radiation, I don't know.
The fact that the astronauts don't even know it was there, as Chocolate alluded to, says a lot, doesn't it?
I've got something I just was playing around with while we're talking about gas pressure. I don't know if you can see my screen.
Yep.
Yeah, I've got you presented.
Okay. It says this, the spacesuits of the astronauts are at 4.3 pounds per square inch, right? Well, I was thinking about that. What do you think that does to the boiling point of water and what are we mostly made of? What do you think that reduction in pressure would do to water in the system? Anybody have any clue? Well, obviously, silence says probably not. Well, there's this little calculator here, the boiling point of calculator. If you put something in 4.3 psi of water or of pressure, the boiling point becomes like 154 degrees. I wonder if there's any biological issues that might start occurring if that happens.
Wait, you said that the suits are at 4.3? That's what you said?
Well, that's what NASA says. The suits were pressurized at 4.3 psi. Okay.
Really?
Yeah, that's what they say. I've got it up on screen now. This is from NASA. Well, if you take
So that's
boiling,
basically almost a quarter of atmospheric pressure. Is that right?
right?
4.3 psi
Right.
is 0.3 atm, almost a third or so.
Less, yeah, probably even less than almost. Well, yeah, something like that.
Hold on.
So,
So
like,
from the chat, Philip Cooper says 3.2 psi is the minimum for a lunar suit.
I know, but look at the boiling point of water. I mean, so I would think they're so close that there's some biological problems would start occurring in the body. You would think. Now, if we took it down to, you said the lowest point was
how
how much?
would they on the moon and in this
3.2.
reduced pressure?
You said 3.2. Okay, so
Correct.
the lowest point. I
is
would take
it
it down even
absolute
more. So.
pressure?
Do what? Say that again.
What pressure are they referring to? The absolute pressure or plus atmospheric
That's a good
pressure?
question. Right? I don't know if it says absolute pressure. It just says, yeah, it just says 4.3 pounds per square inch.
Does the rest of that matter where it says oxygen, 100% oxygen instead of 20% oxygen? Would that make a difference? I have no idea.
Well, if you reduce the pressure, obviously that means there's less molecules to bounce around inside the suit. And if you have more, and most of our air is made up of nitrogen, technically, I guess the astronaut could technically suffocate. But that's not what I'm thinking about. I mean, just look at even at 3.2 psi, look at the boiling point of water. It's 42 degrees. So for any reason, if he reaches anything close to that, I mean, if you put something on the stove before it starts to even boil on the stove, before it even reaches the boiling point, gas starts to form, starts to steam off of it. So think about that for a second. Human body. Think about the human body.
Well, what's the temperatures supposedly in the thermosphere where they're at?
Well, there you go. There's another problem because it's supposed to be like 200 and 300 in the sun and then so much in the shade. So the surface of the spacesuit would be hot. So
how come the Tesla
I want to know the
convertible
cooling
didn't have the
system they have in
dashboard
that
and the
suit and the
tires
heat
melting off?
system.
I didn't catch that, Tim.
I said, oh, was I talking over someone?
No, somebody else was talking. I didn't catch it.
I was saying, how come the Tesla convertible, the dashboard and the tires and the paint weren't melting off?
Well, that's a good point.
But they use the excuse that particles are so far apart you can't convect, which has been debunked. Oh.
Yeah, but you have the actual car. Isn't that a big particle?
Yeah,
well, the medium to convect. I know it's. Actually, I was thinking real quick. Oh, sorry. Are you done about?
No, I was going to answer to your thing. Who cares about the pseudo response we get of they're far apart when you got a car that all the particles are a part of? It's just, okay, they're all going to go there.
Yeah, I know it's retarded.
Yeah, so I'm looking up Wiki, and yeah, it does say that the actual absolute pressure of the spacesuit using pure oxygen is about, that say 4.7 to 3 psi of oxygen. So if it's only oxygen, it's at that pressure, and they say that's because it's they're breathing pure oxygen, so it can be at a much lower pressure. But their whole body is in this 1/3 of actual normal experience pressure, plus they're breathing 100% oxygen. So yeah, go figure. Not to mention the temperature.
But you also run into another problem. There's other gases in the system in your body. So if you reduce the gas pressure or the pressure within the system, the body, the other gases will start. Just like you open up a can of Coke, the pressure releases, and the gases inside the body would start releasing as well. You have another problem there as well because you've just reduced the pressure.
Yeah, I mean, they'd have to really demonstrate in a lab or something that humans, living in this sort of kind of, conditions in the pure oxygen and all that. And like you say, without all kinds of crazy stuff going with your body because of all kinds of gases, including methane or whatever in your intestines or who knows what, sulfur.
Okay, so you see what's happening here, right? They can't even show Earth-based Coriolis 2 reference frames. And now we're talking about spacesuits in space that doesn't exist the way they say it and how gas and air would work. You see what they do? This is what they do all the time. Just show me the Earth spinning, rotating, and you could win the argument with your spacesuits then. But until then, it's all a misdirection for us to talk about that.
Actually, my brother-in-law just walked up to me and mentioned something about the pressure inside the eye. So imagine if you started reducing the pressure on outside the eye, what would happen? Because there's pressure inside the fluid inside the eye. More problems, folks. I have to look. I'll break this down a little bit more. I have to look at it.
I have grandchildren, and I'm watching them learn how to walk. They're learning balance. Their sensory systems are aiding them. They know when they're toppling, they kind of put their arms out to gain balance. So eventually, that grandchild's going to walk and realize what balance is. So now you're telling me that I've got those sensory perceptors and I don't sense the earth moving? I don't see with my eyes a horizon line that's curved? They're trying to get us to deny the two senses that we have.
Man, it's just so big and it's moving so fast that you're just not going to feel it. That's it, buddy.
Can't let that slide, I'm afraid, 10th man. Can't bite Dawn's head off. That I said don't see a horizon that curves. I wouldn't care if you did. What's the horizon?
Right. No, I agree. But I'm just saying when you look out and they say they see a curve, I said, where? I'm looking out. I don't see a curve. I mean, I'm talking about that, not the actual or the apparent horizon where the sky supposedly meets the ground. Give me a break.
Yeah, but that is what they're talking about. And when you say you don't see it curving, you mean the horizon. You're not going to weasel out of this. I didn't let Dawn weasel out of it. But we're reifying it too when we say, well, we don't see any curvature when we rise in altitude. Well, what you actually mean is you don't see the horizon bend. So what?
Well, let's stay on this for a minute. What do my eyes tell me?
Eat that cake? I don't know. What are you looking at?
Okay.
It's flat.
Okay, so my eyes, when I go to a lumber yard, and I remember Chocolate saying he used to work at a lumber yard. Chocolate, you know how sometimes the wooden boards, whether they're sheets of wood or 2x4s, they're bent and you don't want to buy those, so you look for the straight ones, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So do we use our toes or do we use our eyes for that?
I think we use our eyes.
Thank you.
Yeah, but you're looking down the length of the piece of wood. Now, if I was to describe my visual experience from an aeroplane, I'd describe the ground beneath me and how it expands out, not the horizon. But when you say you see
agree.
but you're saying I see no curvature, and I hear so many flat earthers arguing about the horizon and what it should or shouldn't do.
When I say I see no curvature, am I just looking at air or am I looking at the ground as contrast to air with it? The whole thing.
Fair
what
enough.
am I looking at?
I'm holding you to an account that you shouldn't be because of Dawn on the last show. My bad.
No, it's good. I'm glad we went through it because reality to me, it's like you have to prove it. Someone else has to experience. They say, "Hey, touch this thing; it's hot." And when that person touches it, and they said, "No, it's not. It's not hot." So, well, hang on. Then I go touch it; and it's hot. And then someone else touches it, and it's not hot. Well, something's wrong there. But when two people touch the same thing and they both say it's hot, more than likely it's hot.
No, so two people touch something and then it's hot, and then a third person comes over and say, "Hey guys, that thing you touched that was hot, it's actually cold." and you're supposed to believe that person.
I would believe the guy that said
that's the joke that we're living in.
I would believe the guy that said, "Be careful of that; it's exothermic."
It sounds like what was George said, a thermos without a lid or something. What did he say about a thermos? It's like
a closed thermos is an open system.
Yeah.
I like it.
That's too funny.
These Globetrotters keep putting nonsense in my brain, and I keep remembering it. I can't forget this nonsense, like shoes a phenomenon, and of course, air is not the atmosphere. What else we got?
Accelerating coffee cups.
Oh, yes.
Hang gliders a powered flight.
Yep. Hang gliders, powered flight. It's wonderful. You got to go up to space to start seeing a deviation. It's like
That one of my
hold on a sec.
all-time favorites was when Rumpus at the equator said when he was walking, he was experiencing Coriolis.
Do you want to add something, Cork? Did you want to add something?
I doubt he's ever been to the equator.
Want to add something?
Well, I was going to add something on a different.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was looking at. I think I found another proof to debunk the whole moon mission. I was looking at my neighbor's flagpole the other day, and I noticed the deterioration rate of the flag from the sun's radiation. You know, the thing's 2 years old and it's almost disintegrated. And I'm in Northern Ontario, Canada, so we don't, it's not exposed to light 365 days, 24 hours a day. So I looked up where NASA got their flag. And if you read in their article, someone come up with the idea, it was a couple weeks before takeoff. They actually went to Sears and bought the flag from Sears, gave it to the astronauts and said, this will be a good thing, plant our flag, blah, blah, blah. So I'm thinking, what kind of flag do they have in 365 days of 24 hours sun that the radiation wouldn't disintegrate that material within days? Because there's supposedly no radiation.
Nah, second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply to the Earth. That flag's fine. You're completely wrong.
Yeah, don't worry. The sun decreases entropy, so don't worry.
Oh God! Right, I've got two of these people now. I've got it. QE, please, can you correct your nonsense? And then Chocolate, can you correct yours? The sarcasm, my audience could do without.
But literally, if someone could figure out the decay rate of material, that flag would be dust in like a week.
Hold on. I've got QE telling my audience the second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply to Earth, and bloody Chocolate saying that entropy will decrease as you get further away from the sun. Right, I know these are bullshit baller narratives that you're being sarcastic about, right? But I want the concise rebuttal to it as well, not just the sarcasm. So QE first, please. You put that shit out there. Now you can clean it up.
I'm eating breakfast. Do I need to do it now?
You can't throw shit in this show and then just run away. No, you sort it out. Breakfast, my ass. The audience now thinks that the second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply to Earth because you've just said that.
Most of your audience doesn't know what the second law of thermodynamics is.
Don't condescend my audience. They're all very intelligent people, apart from the fundies.
All right. The reason why I said it is because the Rumpus and a few other knuckleheads said that the second law doesn't apply to the Earth, right? So there's no deterioration. There's no entropy increase on the Earth. And in fact, they said the second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply to the Earth, but then there's localized decreases in entropy brought up by the sun, which is so moronic. It's language can barely encapsulate the stupidity of those two statements. So is that good?
Yeah, that's good enough. So yeah, your cup of coffee would debunk that the second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply when you watch it get cold, and the sun is a certified entropy generator. It's increasing entropy, there is no doubt. These people are crown munchers. Moving on to Chocolate. Right, Chocolate, what was your nonsense that you spewed into the rumpusing?
Well, I mean, like I was quoting Rumpus was saying, the sun decreases entropy, which is obviously nonsense. Like John just said, like he usually says, it's the greatest entropy source that we have. So yeah, it's nonsense to say that
it's the greatest entropy generator the world has ever seen.
Sure, it was different nonsense. I thought you were referring to the fact that in their narrative, the sun, as you get further away from it, increases in temperature.
Oh no! I just said that the sun decreases entropy.
Sure, it was a rumpus. It was a second highlight. You were both highlighting nonsense from Rumpus.
It's one of the most recent nonsenses. So yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm sure Cork's really grateful that we had to unpack all that garbage. So shout out to Flatulent Unicorn. Flat is a shape. Brenda, that's in quotes. It's important aspect. No, okay, sorry, Cork. I'm really sorry all that had to be done. Feel free to continue.
Yeah. So how long would that flag actually before it broke down into dust?
Where's the flag?
On the moon. It's not, but
No,
that's not
the moon
nuts.
flag.
Oh, that flag. That's on the moon.
Yeah, if the
And a
flag
medium.
was on the moon in the radiation of the sun, 365 days, 24 hours a day.
This is going to be why flat earthers absolutely hate me. So, okay, yeah, I appreciate your argument, and while it could be deemed a valid argument, your argument begs the question that the moon is somewhere you can travel to, and it potentially has a moon, and you're only unpacking whether or not the moon would survive on that surface that we can travel to through a second law of thermodynamics violation to plant the flag, but we're only arguing about whether or not the flag would survive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Before
No,
you even get to the
we know a flag will
No, I
deteriorate
can
from the
solve-
radiation of the sun.
Yeah, I understand
So
your
you
argument.
can just, if they had the flag on the moon, as they say they do, that flag could not survive.
There's my problem, though.
It'd be-
That bit that you added on the end, if the flag is there like they say it is, well, you're immediately affirming part of the argument we brace against. So before you even get to the flag, the journey, forget even the landing or what they say the moon is, the journey couldn't have taken place in the first place because it claimed to have took place in a second law of thermodynamics violation called outer space, known as a vacuum, the sky vacuum, right? Well, therefore you don't need to get anywhere near that. And in doing so, this is why I'm saying, I started by saying this is why people hate me. Because as far as you're concerned, well, what a perfectly reasonable way of debunking that there's not a flag on the moon. But the words flag on the moon buys into their argument. And that's the bit that I'm kind of attacking you on. And I'm apologising for it, if that makes sense.
I can
That's all
answer
good.
this question. It's real simple. It was like the song says, space might be the final frontier, but it was filmed in a Hollywood basement. So the flag is in the basement.
Right on. The journey didn't take place. The moon isn't a rock you can travel to. It's all bollocks. But if you're into if it was on a rock in the sky that you can travel to, then the flag wouldn't survive. That's kind of, in most instances and most parts of that argument, actually working against us. I'm sorry.
And also,
And even if we wanted to answer that question honestly, we would need the same environment and manipulate that and test it out for ourselves.
Also, when was the last time the picture of the flag was actually shown? Because every time they try to show me a picture of the flag, it's basically some grainy piece of shit picture, and there's a dark pixel, and they're like, "That's the flag."
What they tend to do is they
I
tend
mean-
to get people with a high level of computer technology to analyse it. So the last time I saw this being discussed was by NVIDIA. So they're a graphics card manufacturer, graphics chip manufacturer. And what they were doing, this is in 2014, maybe 15, they were describing how what is now RTX technology, ray tracing technology, would function. And what they used to demonstrate it was their graphics ray tracing proving the moon landings happened with the pictures of the moon and the flag and all that crap. And they used ray tracing. So in other words, they're saying, look how good our graphics card is with computer generated whatevers. We proved the been to the moon. That's basically how they did it. And I've seen that kind of various iterations of that done over the years. You know, they might have somebody on bloody Mythbusters doing a similar thing and saying, look how we've analysed it and these are the lighting angles, and you know, that's how they typically do it. They'll analyse it with mathematics and to prove that it's real.
Yeah, but what I was trying to say is that what they were doing is trying to replicate old pictures. I'm saying there is no new picture. Like the
Sorry to
newest
interrupt.
pictures from the
I'll just-
60s. So, I mean, even
Can I
if,
just interrupt with a question? There's discussion in the live stream text thing, and they're saying that you don't understand what the second law of thermodynamics is and how the sun reacts to that. Could you just clarify your point, Nathan, just so we can see what you're saying? And I'm a flat earther, by the way, and just to answer these guys in the live stream text chat, please.
But the second law of thermodynamics is entropy. Entropy increase would be the gas filling the available volume of a sky vacuum. Entropy would increase, that is the second law of thermodynamics. That would be what would happen to the gas. Entropy doesn't just halt and stop at some demarcation point that they write on a whiteboard. That's not how thermodynamics works. Entropy increase. That's what would happen. The gas would fill the space.
Wiggles. 2019. What's up, Chad, by the way?
Yeah, I agree with you. Zanuck just says entropy is not gas filling the volume. I think that's a statement.
So his assertion is gas does not fill the available volume. Yeah, it does.
Entropy is not. Gas is filling the volume. And entropy is basically the heat law.
Xanax is a retard. The second law is clown.
Don't rumpus him. Hold on. I want to hear him. Can I just hear Zanuck?
The usable energy of a system goes down with time. The total energy doesn't change. The usable energy of a system goes down with time. That's what entropy.
Who cares? Who cares, you clown?
People always mock what they don't understand.
Who cares? So tell us about the second law of thermodynamics, Mr. Expert. Hold on a second, clown show. I want you to tell me what is a positive Gibbs free energy. Positive delta G. What does it mean? Go right now. Don't you Google it. You tell us right now. Positive delta G. Go.
Just because you have it written down from your internet file doesn't mean you know what it means.
Go.
What's delta G?
You pretender clown.
Don't remember. You've got it clear. What's delta G?
Changing Gibbs, the Gibbs cycle. I don't remember. I can't remember enough to give you a definition.
Well, there is no Gibbs cycle, you friggin' clown, and we can hear you typing in the background. You're out of here.
So
there is a Gibbs cycle. What are you talking about? There is a Gibbs cycle. Of course there is.
So he asked you what Gibbs free energy was, and you don't know what delta G is, but you're telling us that we don't understand the second law of thermodynamics, correct? Hello.
Don't worry. Yeah, you'll be saying hello till the cows come home. Ain't gonna work. So let's move on.
Well, it's just amazing. You know, someone has to read out that he's basically smearing us in the back chat, saying we don't understand the second law of thermodynamics. You put him to task, and immediately he's like, I can't remember.
Gibbs cycle. You freaking pretender clown. Tired of your nonsense. You freaking Milli Vanilli. That's what you are. You're a Milli Vanilli. We already know it. You come back with the same stupid arguments every time. I'm sick of it.
What's the rinse and repeat? That's it, isn't it? Rinse and repeat. And with that, I'll say if you are watching this on the Nathan Oakley 1980 premiering stream, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you're watching this live on Nathan Oakley, then this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Massive shout out to Dal West Watson, who smashed the super chat towards the end there. Says Nathan Thompson wants to join. There is a link below all of these live shows if you did. So if you want to join on the Discord server, feel free, Nathan Thompson. Another massive thank you to all of today's debating panel for making this live show possible. As I say, stay tuned if you're watching on Nathan Oakley 1980. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Into the after show.
That was fun.
I'm sick of it.
I get tired of the rinse and repeat.
Yeah, I didn't mean to allow Zanuck to actually speak.
It's all good, Chad.
Definitely don't apologise.
It was going to happen eventually.
No apology needed. I'd rather know that he's literally, their only MO now is to poison the back chat of the Discord server while we're live. That's as good as it gets, right?
Nathan, there's literally a guy in here with the name of Nathan doesn't understand Coriolis.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier that Coriolis is a second-year degree maths, so unless you've done a maths degree or have understanding of maths to that level, you don't get it. It's you might understand the basics of it, but in terms of understanding it, it's just too complicated.
What's too complicated?
Coriolis.
Having a laugh.
It just requires the Earth to be rotating.
Hold on, was that said in sarcasm? I just want to establish with this dude in Discord. Are you saying that in sarcasm?
No, the idea of Coriolis and how to resolve the forces and how to prove it is very difficult to understand.
There is no force.
Yeah, that's why I thought you said it in sarcasm. You said it was like degree level. You've got to be joking.
It is. When I studied Coriolis at university, it was second-year degree level.
No
It's an
way.
apparent force.
But it's so simple.
I'm sorry you had to pay a shit ton of money to learn that dumb shit.
Well, no, that says
Well,
quite
no,
a
it
lot.
was
That
dumb
speaks
shit.
volumes.
When I learnt it, we went through all the div, grad, and curl and vector analysis and everything like that. And at the end of it, he said, "Well, you can't actually detect it because it's too weak." So it's a complete waste of time.
How did the football
Okay, can you all stop? Oh, God. I want to hear what this guy's got to say. He's telling us about how he's been educated in Coriolis. I want to hear him.
Yeah. I studied maths at university, and I learned about the Coriolis effect and how it does this and how it does that. And then at the end of it all, after working out all the equations and all the div, grad, and curl and everything like that, the professor of mathematics said you can't actually detect it because it's too weak. So it was a complete waste of time. But I've tried to re-understand it now, and I just can't get it. I'm too old.
But if the maths teacher was telling you you can't detect it, that implies he was suggesting it was a force that was detectable.
No, he was just explaining how the Coriolis force works. So he gave the example of a roundabout. If you're on a roundabout and you kick your foot towards the centre while the thing's going round, it pulls your leg to one side. It's well worth doing it just to understand what the force is, and that's a real, that really does work.
It's an effect.
The Coriolis force, which we're supposed to feel on Earth, is too weak because of all this talk about when they do the show of the toilet going the wrong way or a bowl, making water go out and spinning a certain direction. It doesn't work. It's too weak.
If it's too weak and you can't detect it, how can you have a lesson on it?
It just sounds like
there is no force.
You tell me why they had a lesson on it.
I'm just trying to unpack it, because you're saying that they're saying, oh no, this alleged reaction that you see in a toilet, you wouldn't because the force is too weak. But it sounds like during the maths lesson, it's packed up with doublespeak in regards specifically to Coriolis, which you're learning in a university when it's something that a child of 5 could understand.
No, you can't. You can't understand the details of it. You can understand the basics of what it is, but the actual mathematical details and resolving it, and deriving it from first principles is very complicated. But as you're right, it's a complete nonsense.
Yeah,
even at the time, I wasn't into flat Earth or anything. But when I was at university and learned this,
chocolate.
You can't detect it. I was gobsmacked. I thought, what was the point of all of that then?
Can you name the university? Because I want to avoid
University of East Anglia, and the teacher was called Professor Johnson. We did fluid dynamics.
I'm amazed. I'm absolutely amazed. It's packed up in doublespeak in a maths lesson for Coriolis. I can't quite believe it. And they're referencing Earth. I shouldn't be, because it's obvious, and that's why everyone's so brainwashed.
I'll see if I can find my notes, but I think I've thrown them away. But it's.
I'm not quite sure if this guy's trolling or not.
No, I don't think he's trolling.
No, I don't either. I think he's telling. I think he's really
people know me from
I think he's
24/7.
the math works out, but it doesn't. It's so minute.
He's not a troll. I know this guy's Chad. He's not a troll.
Hey, Chad.
But like I was saying previously, if you check out videos on Coriolis on YouTube, everyone has a lot of people, like I said, have a correct definition, but then soon after, they doublespeak and they apply it as a force. They say Coriolis affects wind direction and other bullshit like that.
Yeah.
First, they describe it as an apparent force, and then they say that it affects wind direction.
Well, that's what this guy's just
Anyway.
said came in his maths lesson. There's an equivocation within the lesson. And then at the end, it's, oh, well, the force is too weak to detect. What bloody force?
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
It's not weak
Absolute
enough
madness.
for my toilet to feel it, I guess.
You should get Zanek's opinion on this.
This
He's
is
done the
why.
math.
This is why we are a brainwashed nation of people, because within the education system at degree level, they're poisoning people's brains with this nonsense, literally.
And the best part is that they're paying up the ass for it.
We already went over this, the brainwashing. Remember the physics professor admitted to brainwashing his students. Just came out and admitted. We probably need to go back over that again. Thank you for reminding me of that.
Yeah, that's well worth a remention.
Why are we surprised though? Because they teach us the globe model at school, so it's not
just-
really a surprise that they're teaching bullshit at universities when they teach bullshit at schools.
No, you're absolutely right. I shouldn't be shocked, and shocked is the wrong word. Furiously angry and disgusted with humanity. That would be a more accurate way of describing my feelings at the moment. Because you're like, every time there's an overt example of it from somebody who's describing firsthand their process of being indoctrinated, it makes my blood boil. Like, I don't want to expose my kid to that kind of education structure. It's just an outrage.
These are the same people who say that
Nice.
we all derived from a one-cell amoeba. So the one-cell amoeba would have the DNA code for a one-cell amoeba, but according to them, it had all the codes for every living thing that ever was. This
Where'd
is
you get
nonsense.
DNA? Where'd you get the cell membrane? Where'd you get matter?
Nonsense.
Maybe nothing has a DNA.
I asked somebody yesterday because they talked about minute changes in the system that causes that. Well, the problem is how does a minute change in the folding of a protein cause the change of an arm to a leg?
Whoa, wait a second. Where'd you get the cell? Let's go back. First principles.
I know.
Where'd you get the
I got
cell?
you.
Where'd you get DNA? Where'd you get the information in DNA? Where'd you get matter? Where'd you get the cell membrane from?
The mitochondria, the structure inside the cell, the whole
The cell
Talking about
membrane
the
store.
mitochondria just yet. We're light years away from mitochondria. Where are you getting matter? Where's the matter from? Where's the carbon? Right? That's where we're starting at.
The matter
We're
store.
light years away from DNA. God, I'm getting over-talked again. Go ahead, please explain your expertise on DNA. It's probably chocolate.
Chocolate actually had the best answer to their nonsense. He says they got it from the matter store. That was good. Oh, so dumb.
John's a bit grumpy today.
Oh God, don't start off.
It's just my mic.
No, you know, I was thinking about all the shows and
Hold
all
on,
these,
Ten Pan, because I was about to, if it hadn't have been quote unquote John being grumpy, which I don't think it is, I was going to say, look, for those of you who didn't understand those questions, type 1 for the 5% of the audience that understands the significance of those questions. Where'd you get the cell from? What's DNA? Now, some people will recognise the importance of those questions. Some people won't.
I get it. That's why I said the matter store. Because the nothing that was nothing went to the matter store to get matter to create the matter.
Right. I'm not aiming that at you. I'm not aiming that at you, Chocolate. I'm aiming it at the audience who are listening. So that's why I'm clearing the air for QE to unpack it, so that hopefully he'll divulge exactly this. Fuck, man. So I'm hoping QE will divulge the significance of those questions. We'll see. Maybe not.
Negative. I'm not divulging. Stay tuned to Quantum Eraser channel, and then I'll divulge it.
Well, what I was going to say, what I was going to say in a fun way, QE, in a fun way. So don't attack me. Is that the superheroes out there? You're the Incredible Hulk. You're John Bannister one moment, and you're the Hulk the next.
No, I wouldn't describe him as the Hulk. More like the Terminator.
The Terminator brought back from the future. That be the Globe Terminator brought back from the future. Get some!
1.2 gigawatts.
Nathan,
it's
you slot little
1.21.
dog,
You got to get that right.
Again, got to add his
I
background with nonsense, right?
Gigawatts was just a misquote. So they phoned up.
Nathan.
Go on, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say they just phoned up a professor and asked him for various different values, and when he said gigawatts to them, he just misspoke or mispronounced it, and that just got written down and recreated in the movie. So obviously it's gigawatts, but gigawatts is just, like I say, just a Chinese whispers from somebody who knew what they were talking about and said it slightly wrong one day.
So where did they get flux capacitor from then?
And they just made that up.
Okay, good. Like everything else.
You don't remember Doc Brown fell off his toilet and came up with it?
Was that the Coriolis
Did you forget
toilet?
that very important detail?
Was that the Coriolis toilet, Chuck?
Might as well be.
Chocolate, when you open up your gate to talk, can you hear anybody else?
Most of the time, yeah. Sometimes
You can
it's
hear.
muffled, so sometimes I won't hear until I'm already talking.
Yeah, so it's probably a good idea when you're droning to go ahead and close off your gate. Just FYI.
Oh God, is this going to turn into a moan fest?
When I'm droning.
Yeah, that's.
You don't see my mute button? Every time I speak, my mute button goes off. And when I stop, it goes back on. Okay, John?
With that, I'm going to say, first and foremost, if you are watching this on the Nathan Oakley 1980 premiering stream, then go over to Iron Realm Media, as their show is starting at 10:30 p.m. UK time, so BST. So be here or be sphere on the IRM, Iron Realm Media channel, as their show starting any moment now over there. A massive, huge, enormous thank you to all of today's debating panel for making this after show possible, and of course a massive thank you to all of you in the Nathan Oakley 1980 premiering audience for tuning in, hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!